Delegates at the National Constitutional Summit, organized by the eminent patriots of Nigeria, have called on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to organize elections for a constituent assembly tasked with drafting a new people-driven constitution. The summit rejected the 1999 constitution as amended, deeming it illegitimate due to its imposition by the military regime. Former Commonwealth Secretary-General Emeka Anyaoku, reading the summit's communique, emphasized that Nigeria needs a complete constitutional overhaul, focusing on true federalism, state police, and restructuring the current 6 geopolitical zones. The summit proposed the introduction of an executive bill for the formation of the Constituent Assembly, which would draft the new constitution, subject to a referendum before presidential assent. The delegates also criticized Nigeria's presidential system, calling it expensive, prone to abuse, and detrimental to the nation's welfare. They recommended devolution of powers, a more cost-effective federal legislature, and the separation of the roles of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Well, for a discussion on the renewed clamor for restructuring based on Chief Emeka Anyaoku's call and what makes restructuring the silver bullet to Nigeria's political crisis, lawyer Jimmy Abia joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
My pleasure being with you.
So what do you make, of the eminent patriots of Nigeria's call for a complete restructuring and thorough revision of Nigeria's current constitutional framework and system of governance?
I think there are really people who are genuinely concerned about the way the country is drifting. And these calls are not new. These calls have always been there, that Nigeria should do something about the system of government that we run, and that if we are able to decentralize, that it would help in the governance in the country. So that is actually what they are coming together for. And I think it is something that is not just timely, but is important that Nigeria does. But despite saying that, I would want to add, because this is a point which I've made in different fora, that it's important that we recognize the fact that it is not just the Constitution that is our problem. It is also the people that operate it. So even if we have a new Constitution, and then we still have people who are not interested in doing the right things, we are still going to have issues coming up within the system, because we have people who are not ready to do the things the proper way.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hit on, that critics are saying it's not even the Constitution that is the issue. It is the operators, the political elite who are in power, and the way that they implement the Constitution. So how do we go about changing these? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Yes. The political elite.
You see, the thing is this. Nigerians have the capacity, have the power within their hands. I'm not sure Nigerians have recognized the fact that they can actually, what is important in the first instance, which I think also, while talking about constitutional amendment, we need to also be talking about the electoral system. If we can get the electoral system right and elect leadership that can actually drive a system where the country can abide by even what it currently has. It is not the Constitution that made a governor come out and issue an order that a certain politician should not visit a particular state. No, the Constitution has guaranteed freedom of movement. So it is there in the Constitution. But because you have people whose minds are not centered on implementing what the Constitution has said, whose minds are all about doing their own will, imposing their own will over what is in the Constitution. That's why you have such things occurring. So I am saying that while it is important that we have some certain changes, while it is important that we possibly might have to have a new Constitution, that the people, the operators of that system, is also very critical for us to get it right as a country.
Now, the Patriots also want the President to introduce an executive bill to the National Assembly to empower INEC to organize elections to a National Constituent Assembly. Considering INEC's less than satisfactory performance in conducting national elections, how wise really is this advice?
That's why we've been saying this, that it's not enough for us to just say that we need a new constitution and then let INEC, let's empower. Because even when you're saying that the president should send a bill to the National Assembly to empower INEC, it will involve a constitutional amendment. You cannot, this is not one of the elections which the Constitution has empowered INEC to conduct. So you will have to amend what is existing, the current Constitution. That's why I keep saying that it is not just the Constitution. Why we need to make inputs, change certain things and all that, it is not just the Constitution. So if before that process will be carried out, you will need to use the current National Assembly to amend the Constitution to empower INEC to be able to conduct elections into the Constituent Assembly. Also, to amend the Constitution to allow for a referendum, because there's no such provision in the Constitution currently, to allow for a referendum. That's before you can now get in a new Constitution which will replace this one, you see? So we are in a chicken and egg situation.
It's a lot of steps, yes. A lot of prerequisites to get it right. The call for restructuring, this isn't the first time we've heard it. It's not even the millionth time we've heard it. We've heard many politicians discuss this. What do you make of the Patriots' timing for this referendum and this discussion in light of 2027 and how everyone is gearing up 2 years before elections even start?
There's no time that is wrong for a nation to discuss the ways it can move forward as a nation, or to discuss its nationhood. There's no time that is wrong. So this conversation, it's an ongoing conversation. Even after this one, I expect that conversation will continue. Because even if you have a constitution, constitutions of countries are even amended from time to time, because it's a living document. It's a document that is meant to meet with developments, meet with changing times and all that. So you expect that these changes, will continue to occur. My point is this: it is not wrong bringing it up right now, and it is not wrong if Nigerians also come together and say, we're going to change this aspect of our national life, change this aspect. And even if we decide that should be through a new constitution, there's nothing wrong about that. It just has to have the consensus of the Nigerian people. So long as that process has the consensus of the Nigerian people, then it is fine. But my point, which I still keep going back to, is that it is not just the constitution that is our problem. It is also about the players. It's also about the people who run the system.
But, I'm wondering how we can deal with the issue of the players, the people that run the system. Mm-hmm. You say that Nigerians have the power, but we know how elections are conducted here. And then we also know that ultimately it is the courts that decide. You are a lawyer. You know the issues with our courts. So how then do we begin to tackle the operators of the system? Okay,
let me say a number of things. Now, certain things are critical in that process. The media is important. I like what we're doing here because it is the media also taking up that responsibility. Now, the media is important because the media, as a fourth estate of the realm, would hold accountable people, implementers of this particular constitution. So you have the judiciary. If the media keeps saying, that's why I am, when people say do not discuss, because there's actually, now, there's something that people often come online. They say, you don't discuss a matter in court. That's not correct. It's not correct. I want to put it here because we are on live. It's not correct. The reason why there is a guarantee of free speech, ability to expression, freedom of expression, is that these things are meant to be an ongoing discussion. It is not in any, I don't know where people got that. Now, what does the law expect? That when you make such discussions, you don't make conclusions. You don't make imputations on the character of the justice or the judiciary, and then you do not make conclusions on how these judgments will, on how a judgment which is still in process would go. That is what it requires. And then there is also a greater responsibility on parties within that action, in that suit. So for the claimant and the respondent, or the applicant and the respondent, or the claimant and the defendant, and the applicant and the respondent, or the prosecution and the defense, as the case may be, depending on the kind of case you have. These are the people who have even greater responsibility. But it is important that citizens keep discussing. Why am I saying this? Because for you to have a system where citizens recognize their rights, recognize that they can change this system, there is need for an ongoing system of public discussions in the media and at every other level. Now this is one. Then it is also important for people, it also borders on those discussions, for people to be enlightened on their rights. A lot of Nigerians do not even know that they have these rights to change the system, that they have these rights to determine how their country will be run. So it's important that the citizens understand this. If people understand this and the institutions of government are put on their toes to function, and the people and these things function well, we're going to be able to run a better society. Whether you change the constitution or you do not change the constitution, we will be able to get a better society.
Okay, fair enough. What do you see, what role do you see for regional autonomy or regional governance in a restructured Nigeria? It's
also something that people have said that if we can go back to the regional system, that it would help in, because part of the devolution of powers, instead of creating states, you just have, the 6 geopolitical zones or whatever system you're going to have it. But when that discussion comes up, I ask, how did we even get to where we are? We had regions. It was the problems in the region, especially the Western region, that brought us to where we are, or where we were, and before we got to where we are. So it was those problems within that system of regionalism. So no system is perfect. Like I said, it depends on the people who run that system. The British Constitution is not written. It's not written. It is the Parliament. It is the Parliament that. So when you say it is not written, that does not mean that you do not have documents, that put these things, that specify these things. What we mean is that you do not have a particular document, a particular book that you call the Constitution. It is the Parliament that determines what is the Constitution at each point in time. However, they are able to run with that system. They're able to make the best out of that system. And the society is working. If you go to the United States, the Constitution is over 200 years. They keep amending the Constitution as need be. And their Constitution is not even as detailed as ours. Ours is more, details almost everything. Yet, you still have a system where we cannot even govern ourselves almost. We almost can't govern ourselves. So what I'm saying in essence is regionalism, whether you have the system of states or you have the system of regions, we will still have problems. We will still have challenges. It will also be important that the people who run that system are people who want to abide by those rules, people who want the best for the country. If you have that, then no matter the system you run, whether you run regional system, so let's not, whether you run regional system or you run a different state system, or you run presidential system or you run parliamentary system, it will not matter, the system will work. So my point is this: let us get it right in terms of the persons, and then the Constitution. Will be able to run a better society.
All right, finally, before we let you go, they also called for separation of the roles of the AGF and that of the Minister of Justice, and for each federating unit to have courts up to the appeal level. I would just like you to react very quickly to this in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, that is something I have advocated for. That is something that is important. Whether you're going to have it by a constitutional amendment of what we have today, or you're going to have it via a new constitution. Either way, but this is important that you separate, because when you separate the position of the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice, what you have is that you have that Minister of Justice will be the person, because he's answerable to the appointer. He's answerable to the appointer, who is the president, and he's like a politician who runs, like the day-to-day affairs of the ministry. So, Minister of Justice, yes, can be there. Then you now have Attorney General with, general prosecutorial powers and other responsibilities, so that he can even take up on current political office holders. You see a situation where people, apart from those who have immunity, whom the Constitution have granted immunity, you see a situation where current office holders cannot be touched. Why? Because the Attorney General is a member of their party. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice is a member of their political party. But if you have a system where you have an Attorney General appointed almost like the Chief Justice of Nigeria, with a system that, provides for some level of independence, then that role can function, and you have more prosecution, and proper powers for that office. Then the other one you mentioned, the second one you mentioned. The
issue of the appeal court.
Yes, the issue of the appeal court. I think it's important also that we can also have a decentralization, such is a way that we can have appeal courts at different appeal courts at different. But don't forget. This is not the only thing we can do to decongest our court. There are a lot of things. I don't want to go too much into that because we don't have time. But my point is that we already have appeal court jurisdictions in different states. But what are we having? We have a situation where there are different decisions coming from different. Now it is still the same court of appeal, but we are having different decisions coming from different courts of appeal. So in the same court of appeal, but different courts sitting, you having the same different decisions. So and that does not augur well for the system. What I'm saying in essence is that even if you're going to have these things at different, within different states, you will still keep having that same problem. If the players do not want to do things right, you will still keep having the same issue that two courts of concurrent jurisdiction, of equal coordinate jurisdiction, will be having different decisions, despite the fact that there is an already existing precedent of a higher court existing, which could be followed. So it's important, like I said, having the people and having the Constitution, both are important, and they need to go hand in hand.
And it seems that they're not going hand in hand. There's confusion everywhere. But
so much confusion.
But Jimmy, Abia, thank you so much for breaking all of that down and having this discussion with us here on Newsday.
My pleasure.